From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. Usually, our friend Kenny Graham would be on the other side of the glass, but unfortunately, he's on vacation right now. Well, fortunately for him, unfortunate for us. He's on vacation right now, so we're practically on autopilot right now. But I will say this, we're going to do the best we can to try and get through this next hour. So hopefully we'll be able to entertain you in the meantime. And I'm going to start off by saying this. If you have a story that you want told about what's going on here in the Staten Island sports scene, we would love to know about it. So don't forget to contact us at Facebook and Twitter. And we also show past episodes of ours through those two mediums as well as YouTube. So again, contact us on Facebook and on Twitter, and we would love to hear from you. So, excuse me. In the meantime, we're going to try and get through this hour by talking about what's been going on in baseball lately. I just saw that moments ago the Mets just won the first game of a doubleheader against the Marlins, thanks to Jacob deGrom, who was outstanding again in 7 innings. So, you're probably wondering, where was this in the first part of the season when they were struggling so mightily? But the bottom line is, after this victory, the Mets not only raised their winning streak to, I think it's now 9 wins in their last 10 games, is it? The Mets have also evened their record at 500 for the season. It's really interesting how things have played themselves out for the Mets this season. So far, it is now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11 wins in their last 12 games. And even though they still have problems with their bullpen, because Edwin Diaz once again gave them a real problem trying to forget about getting a save, just trying to close out that 9th inning. Even though they've been having major problems with their bullpen still, you can count on their starting pitching to really solidify matters, so to speak. And just before the deadline, the Mets made the deal to get the Long Island kid, Marcus Stroman. And even though he had a shaky debut in a Met uniform against the Pirates over the weekend, he was still able to show off a lot of the athleticism, which has really kept him in the game for the last 7 years or so. He made this outstanding play where he wound up ranging to his right on a slow ground ball that was hit towards third, and he wound up picking it with his bare hand and then throwing home to get the force play, which was outstanding. Now, things have started to change a little bit with the Mets as far as their starting staff is concerned. Zach Wheeler is still with the team, and as it turns out, he was able to get himself a big win just recently. And you combine him with deGrom and Syndergaard and Steven Matz and Stroman themselves, the Mets have a more than formidable staff. I mean, they've always been rock solid, but they just have not been able to get any support from their bullpen whatsoever. And more importantly, at the plate, Jeff McNeil continues to tear the league to pieces. He's been the Mets' best player the entire season. Whereas Pete Alonso has been their best slugger, Jeff McNeil by far has been their best player for the entire season. And the Mets should be so fortunate to have those two young men still in their batting order. And probably the unsung hero in this whole thing has definitely been J.D. Davis. And just yesterday, he wound up getting himself a big home run to help the Mets win against the Pirates over the weekend. And even though they were able to get through the meaty part of their schedule, now the really, really tough part of the schedule is coming up. I mean, they won the first game of the doubleheader today against the Marlins. But after this 4-game series that they have, the Mets have to play the Nationals and the Braves. And, of course, the Nationals have been really, really toughening things out and trying to secure a playoff spot for them. And then after that, the Braves, who have long been a thorn on the Mets side, going back 25 years, the Mets have them in Atlanta. Then after that, they have a 3-game series in Kansas City, and then it's back to the meaty part of the batting of the schedule again. They have Cleveland, which is trying to battle the Twins for the American League Central. They have the Braves again. Then there's the Cubs. Then there's the Phillies, who have been giving the Mets nothing but problems this season. I think they've taken 8 out of 13 games from the Mets this year, while the Braves have taken 9 out of 13 from the Mets this year. Then after that, a 4-game series against the Diamondbacks, and then 3 games with the Dodgers, who right now might be the best team in the National League. And then after that, Colorado, a series with Cincinnati. Then they have to play Miami again. And then they have to play Atlanta again at home to finish the season. And just think about this. The Mets season, if they're in the wild card hunt, for example, if they're maybe tied for that second spot, or maybe in that second spot, their season would come down to 3 games at Citi Field against the Atlanta Braves, who have done nothing but kill that team and that franchise one game after another for almost 25 years. I want to see how the Mets can do against a real playoff contender like the Braves, because the Braves, as we all know, are trying to defend their Eastern Division crown, and they have the Phillies creeping up on them a little bit, and the Nationals are creeping up on them a little bit as well. I mean, even though the standings don't really say so, the Braves have a 7-game lead on the Phillies and the Nationals right now. Do not count out the Phillies or the Nationals for a potential playoff spot. At this rate, they could be going for one of the 2 wild cards right now. As far as the Yankees concerned, this just goes to show you how funny the game of baseball is, how incredulous the game of baseball is, how amazing, how unpredictable this great game of baseball is. They were left for dead after the Boston series in Fenway last weekend. And then what happens? The Yankees bounce back. They wind up splitting a series with Arizona, and then the Red Sox come in. These guys are looking to put more of a dent in the Yankees' lead in the Eastern Division. And what happens? The Yankees actually come away with a 4-game sweep. And look no further than the starting pitching. The same starting pitching that gave the Yankees trouble last weekend wound up getting really solid performances from James Paxton and also Masahiro Tanaka as well, and also Jay Happ, who, even though he was a little bit shaky in the middle innings, was still able to tough it out. Now, the Yankees have the really soft part of their schedule coming up. Just moments ago, they started a series in Baltimore against the Orioles. And then after that, they have 4 games in Toronto against the Blue Jays. The Orioles and the Blue Jays are at the bottom of the totem pole in baseball, not just the American League. Yet somehow the Orioles and the Blue Jays have been able to give the Yankees a lot of trouble this season. So let's see what the Yankees can do this week against the 2 bottom feeders in the Eastern Division. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, I think, Tanaka. Masahiro Tanaka is starting tonight. I had mentioned, I made a mistake. Tanaka did not start over the weekend. Let me see exactly what happened in this Boston series. We mentioned that Paxton won on Friday, and J-Hap won last night. Chad Green actually opened Game 2 of that doubleheader on Saturday. But as it turns out, the rest of the bullpen wound up picking up the slack for them. It was actually Domingo Germán that wound up winning Game 1 of that series. And once again, Domingo Germán continues to carry this rather beat-up Yankees starting order on the pitching staff. Speaking of beat up, leave it to the Yankees to once again make things tougher on themselves by having more people placed on the injured list. This time it's Aaron Hicks, who unfortunately has an elbow injury. They were thinking about maybe giving him Tommy John surgery, but fortunately that's been ruled out. As far as how long he's going to be out, I doubt it's going to be just the 10 days, though. As far as who the other guys are that are on the injured list, Dylan Betances, from what I understand, has started to throw a little bit. When he's going to make his return, we're not really sure. They'll probably give him a rehab assignment. There's also David Hale, who just recently came back to the club. Now he's on the injured list. CC Sabathia's back on the injured list because he hurt his knee. Luis Severino, he started doing a throwing program just recently. When he's going to take part in actual games, we're not really sure, but obviously the first case scenario is a rehab assignment for him. And again, Gary Sanchez wound up getting placed on the injured list. And probably the one injury that hurts them right now is Edwin Encarnacion, who wound up having his wrist broken when he was hit by a pitch over the weekend. Actually, hit by a pitch in the Arizona series. Now it looks like he's going to have to miss about 3 or 4 weeks because of his broken wrist. And also Luke Voigt, he's on the injured list as well. Giancarlo Stanton, we don't know when he's going to be returning. Yet somehow the Yankees continue to persevere and grind out one win after another. And the reason why they're grinding out one win after another is because that batting order continues to lengthen at bats against the pitchers. They continue to foul pitches off. They're not going after pitches out of the strike zone. And any meatball that comes down the plate, they're going to send it into the seats. I wonder how much longer the Yankees can actually persevere with all of these injuries, because if this were another team, they would not be able to recover from all the maladies that they have. Yet somehow the Yankees are able to just keep on trucking. So let's just see what the Yankees do this week when they have the 2 bottom feeders of the division, the Orioles and the Blue Jays, coming up on their schedule. As far as what's going on elsewhere in Major League Baseball, let's take a look at what's going on in the standings. This is about this time where we look at what's going on in the divisions and the wild card races. The Yankees, I want to say that they have a really comfortable lead in the Eastern Division. 8 games sounds comfortable, but with another 50 games left in the season, it's critical that the Yankees take care of their business so they could put the division away early. After that, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Orioles are all a country mile behind. I think you can pretty much count the Red Sox out for a division title, and maybe they're going to have to keep themselves in it with a wild card. The Central Division is a two-team race. It's down to the Twins and the Indians, and they're both separated by 3 games. The Western Division has the Astros with, again, I want to say that they have a comfortable lead, but 8.5 games with roughly 2 months left in the season, or maybe a month and a half left of the season. One thing about Oakland is these guys are no quitters. They have a really solid batting order. Pitching-wise, they're very, very good. I think the Athletics can probably pull out a rabbit from their hat and maybe contend for a wild card spot. Now, as far as the wild card itself is concerned, right now, the Twins and the Tampa Bay Rays are the 2 wild cards, with the Rays leading that second spot by just half a game over Oakland. Then Boston, Texas, and the Los Angeles Angels are quite a ways behind. The Red Sox are 6.5 behind, and the Rangers are 7 behind. And then the Angels are 9 behind. Now, as far as the National League is concerned, right now, only one of the divisions has been decided, and that's the Western Division. The Dodgers have a 17-game lead out west. It's just a matter of time before the Dodgers claim the division title and get ready to surge ahead towards the playoffs. After that, the Braves lead the Eastern Division by 7 games over the Phillies and Braves. The Phillies and the Nationals, I should say. And then there's the Central Division, probably the only close division that's out there right now. The Cubs have a 1.5 lead on the Cardinals, just 4 ahead of Milwaukee, who, even though they're just a game over 500, I still think that they have a chance to make things interesting there. And as far as the wild card is concerned, right now, the Cards have the first wild card spot, and then the Phillies and the Nationals are tied for that second spot. And look who's lurking behind the Phillies and the Nationals for that second spot. It's the Mets. What's the difference between the Phillies, the Nationals, and the Mets? 2.5 games. The same thing goes for the Diamondbacks and the Giants. Both of whom are 2.5 games behind. The Brewers are 2 games behind. Something tells me this division race and also the wild card races in both leagues are going to be really, really interesting to watch. Now, as the pennant races just get started, the NFL season unofficially opened up with the preseason, with the Pro Football Hall of Fame game that took place in Ohio between the Falcons and the Broncos. The Broncos wound up winning the game. Nothing really to take out of that game. It's just one game, so I really don't think we should make too much out of that first preseason game. But the one thing that's going to be interesting to watch regarding the Broncos is their quarterback race. They made the deal to get Joe Flacco, and they also drafted Drew Lock out of Missouri. Drew Lock, by far, is going to be the quarterback of the future. But Joe Flacco still wants to show that he has something left in the tank to contribute to the Broncos or to anybody right now. So let's see exactly how that quarterback competition shapes up between those two teams. As far as what's coming up for the Jets and Giants, they're going to be getting ready for their first preseason games, and it just so happens to be against each other. Usually they finish the preseason against each other, but now The Jets and the Giants are going to start the preseason against each other. And as it turns out, the game's going to be on the NFL Network this coming Thursday night. And the storylines on both the Jets and the Giants are pretty simple. On the Jets, it's having Le'Veon Bell be the every down running back for them. And spending his first year in the league in a Jet uniform after practically sitting out, boycotting the season with the Steelers because of a contract dispute. Now, you could look at it in two ways. One, he's going to look extremely rusty carrying the ball for them this season. Two, he decided to take some me time, if you will, so he could get his body straight. So when you think about it, he's going to come in extremely fresh with the Jets this season. The second storyline with the Jets is Sam Darnold. From what I understand, Sam Darnold has actually developed more arm strength this season than he did all of last season. What is going to be of Sam Darnold? The Jets made him the third overall pick in 2018, I should say, with the intention of making him the every down quarterback, the future quarterback for that franchise. It is critical that this kid do something to try and get in the good graces of the Jet fans. The potential is definitely there. I mean, he's got the athleticism, he's got the arm strength, he's also got the gonads, if you will, to try and make a big play happen. But at the same time, he's had his moments where he could make some really, really silly mistakes, and there were quite a few of them during his rookie year last season. Another big storyline for the Jets, what's going to be of that receiving core? I mean, we already know that Jermaine Kearse is going to be on there, and also the kid Robinson is going to be probably the one guy that's going to be the number one guy for them, even though he's not. Never mind. It's Anderson, Robbie Anderson. I said Robinson. That's my mistake. It's actually Robbie Anderson who's going to be the big, the go-to guy, if you will, for the Jets to throw the ball to. And they also made the deal to bring in another big receiver for them. So let's see exactly what happens with the Jets this year. Now, as far as the Giants are concerned, well, there's only one thing to watch for with the Giants this year: the quarterback situation. From what I understand, Daniel Jones is looking pretty solid at practice. He's been able to throw the ball deep and well. Plus, he's been able to show a little bit of arm strength. Notice the big touchdown that he wound up throwing in practice recently. Also, there's the issue of Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard broke his thumb in practice recently. And yet somehow he was still able to do a little warming up and catch some throws with that broken thumb during the previous practice. There's also the matter of Evan Engram. Evan Engram is their tight end of the future. What is Evan Engram going to be able to do? Is he going to be the one for Daniel Jones or Eli Manning to throw to? Or is he going to try and find a way to make himself the wide open guy now that Sterling Shepard seems to be the man in the slot? That's another thing. The other thing to talk about, Odell Beckham Jr. is not here anymore. So now Sterling Shepard is going to have to be the man along with Evan Engram catching passes. Then there's the matter of Eli Manning. Eli Manning is now in his 16th NFL season. You look at his numbers from last year, he wasn't necessarily terrible. He threw for almost 4,300 yards, and he actually kept his number of interceptions down as opposed to 2017. Yet somehow a lot of people seem to think that he's washed up. The way I see it, Eli has got a lot to prove to Giant fans, to teammates, and to coaches, and to everybody in that front office that he's not done yet. And he already made it loud and clear, he's not retiring. In spite of the fact that his 39th birthday is coming up in January. Let's see exactly what Eli can do in this 16th season. Some people actually say that the Giants can actually improve this year. The other storyline is Saquon Barkley. Even in spite of that woeful offensive line that he had to work with, Saquon Barkley rushed for 1,300 yards last season, and he was the offensive rookie of the year. He was a quick fan favorite among the Giants last year. Now, can he try and one-up what he did this past season, or is that so-called sophomore jinx going to bite him in the butt? Then there's the issue of the offensive line. The Giants have, coming back this year, their second-year player, Will Hernandez, who unfortunately broke his leg during the season and wound up missing a chunk of time. So this time, he has a chance to claim a starting spot once again. It is critical that this offensive line do something to try and give either Eli or Daniel Jones some kind of protection. And speaking of offensive linemen, Nate Solder completely embarrassed himself after signing a contract with the Giants last summer upon leaving the Patriots. He has got to do something to try and protect his blind side, just to keep drives going. That was the Giants' problem last year. When Saquon Barkley was not running the ball, and when Eli was not trying to get the ball down deep, they could not run any sustained drives because the offensive line kept giving up a lot of negative plays. Cross over to the defense this time. The defense was another major problem. And they had their chance to draft a defensive guy 6th overall, yet they chose to take Daniel Jones. So now, granted, they were able to get a couple of guys in the lower rounds of the first round. They did pick a couple of defensive guys, that I should say. So let's see exactly what these Giants are able to do. And as far as the rest of the league right now, the biggest storyline in the NFL right now is Ezekiel Elliott's holdout from the Cowboys. Now you've got the owner, Mr. Jerry Jones, taking shots at his star running back, saying, well, we don't need a running back to win a Super Bowl. I guess he forgot that he had Emmitt Smith in the backfield back in the early 90s, and he helped them win 3 titles. He was a huge reason why the Cowboys won their 3 titles in the early 90s. The last thing you want to do is piss off one of your star offensive players even more, because if you do, that's grounds for not just refusing to return for the preseason, but refusing to return at all. The last thing they need is another Le'Veon Bell situation, because if this happens, I'm going to tell you right now, Ezekiel Elliott is going to want to be traded someplace where he's going to be appreciated. And the Cowboys cannot have this dirty laundry on their hands right now. Now, as far as what's going on elsewhere in the NFL, so far as it turns out, the other big storyline in the NFL was the fact that Tom Brady got himself a brand new contract. He signed for another 2 years, which means he'll be with the team until 2021. He was going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And this year now, his salary is going to be $23 million. Now, that is something that has really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And that's why so many of these guys are getting big, big salaries. It's interesting. Some of the NFL guys were complaining about the NBA players making all of this money and getting all of these not long-term contracts. I mean, the longest they could sign for is 5 years. But the problem was they had a major issue with all of the money that the NBA players were making. Let me tell you, Tom Brady has won 6 titles. You could argue that maybe he could be the NFL's first $40 million player. After all he's done for that franchise, $23 million seems like, I don't want to say cheap, but a little bit less than what he's probably deserving of. But knowing the competitive spirit that Tom Brady has, he's not even worried about having to earn a little bit more money on his contract. He just wants to win that 7th title. And the way things are going for the Patriots right now, and the way that Eastern Division is, not only will the Patriots win another division title, which would make it 11 division titles in a row, but I'll tell you right now, I think the Patriots would be really are this close to winning a 7th title. I would not count them out. I would not dismiss them, even in spite of Tom Brady's advancing age. Let's see, I think next month he turns 42 years of age. He now has a really solid running game going for him. So the only problem that he's going to face is the fact that Rob Gronkowski is no longer there. Rob Gronkowski retired over the spring. There were a couple of rumors about him maybe, just maybe, coming back out of retirement, but he seems to be enjoying his time off. So right now, the only legit receiver that he can throw to right now is Julian Edelman. That means Julian Edelman has got to keep himself healthy if the Patriots are going to have a chance at a 7th title this year. Well, and as far as other news in the NFL, I see that Michael Crabtree has decided to re-sign, not re-sign, but sign with the Arizona Cardinals. And supposedly, the ex-Jet Ryan Fitzpatrick is out playing Josh Rosen at Dolphins camp. You know, leave it to this guy to be such a tease and such fool's gold for any team that picks him up. As far as what's going on in other places in the NFL, I see that Jarvis Landry wound up making a pretty nice block for himself against the Bills in a recent practice. And other than that, that's pretty much it for what's going on in the NFL. Now, as far as what's going on elsewhere in sports, I'm looking at the NFL app right now, and it shows this really, really funny video of Odell Beckham Jr. pulling over his car so he can sign a fan's license plate. Say what you will about OBJ. He may be a brat every now and then, but you can't fault the guy for being surly towards the fan base. It's painfully obvious that this guy really does care about the fans. Now, as far as what else is going on, I just got an alert in the Yankee game that they wound up getting a home run from Austin Romine to lead 1-0 over the Orioles in the second inning. As for the Mets, they just started Game 2 of their doubleheader tonight against the Marlins. And the best part about the Mets streak right now, they just reached 500. Who saw this happening? 56-56. It's amazing. Give the Mets credit. They could have just... They could have just played out the string like they did the previous couple of years, but no. They decided that they want to try and make a run with this. And I think this whole thing got started when the Mets had that little meeting in the front office, and Brody Van Wagenen, the general manager, wound up throwing a chair at the wall in frustration. And then he decided, after acquiring Marcus Stroman, he was going to keep Zach Wheeler after all because he wanted to see this team try and make a run for a playoff spot. Now, there have been some comparisons between this squad and maybe the 1973 squad that won the National League pennant. That 73 squad had such a bigger hill to climb than this year's team. Because when you think about it, the 73 team had a whole slew of injuries. Not only that, but I think they were down to last place at one point in the season. Even though the Mets have been as low as fourth place this season, somehow they were still able to climb out of it and make their way up to third right now. So, as far as what's going on elsewhere in the pennant races, I think it's safe to say that only one division has been settled right now, and that's the National League West. The way the Dodgers are just playing right now is just a sight for sore eyes of Dodger fans this season. Not only that, but what about the season that Cody Bellinger is having? He's just hitting moonshots out of every single major league park this season. It's gotten to the point where every team is going to have to pitch really, really carefully, not just to Cody Bellinger, but also to the other guys that are in their batting order. It's gotten to the point where the Dodgers are an impossible team to try and guard against this season. And let me tell you, there's going to have to be a team that's going to have to be red hot starting now up until the end of the season, or maybe from September on, to try and defy the Dodgers, because the Dodgers right now, they're the alpha males of the National League. They could be the alpha males of all baseball. Now, if only they can just win a World Series, they can appease their fan base finally after 30 years. And what about... Still trying to look through some stuff over in my my app right now. Well, it seems like this baseball season has been pretty interesting. I mean, I don't want to say it's been a total wash because it seems like a bunch of the divisions, I would say maybe 6 out of the 8 divisions have been pretty much close to well decided this year. Only the American League Central and the National League Central have been really, really, really close to try and predict. So it's going to be a matter of time before we see exactly what happens at the end of the season. Now, as far as what's going on in hockey, yes, we have a hockey sighting for this summer. Oh, before we get to hockey, they just released the schedule for Major League Baseball's playoffs. The playoffs officially start October 1st with the wild card games, and then after that, the World Series, which once again is being presented by YouTube, is going to start October 22nd. And in between, the Division Series start October 3rd, and then the League Championship Series starts October 11th. So there's your schedule right now. And I see here that the Orioles have a man on second with 1 out in the home second inning. Yankees still lead 1-0. As far as what's going on in hockey is concerned, I see that the Rangers wound up buying out Kevin Shattenkirk's contract, and he was not particularly thrilled with the way he was treated by Ranger brass. But when you think about it, Shattenkirk really has nobody but himself to blame because he really did not produce in the 2 years that he did with the Rangers. So now, from what I understand, Shattenkirk has already returned to the Washington Capitals, so he's got himself a new contract with the Capitals. I think it's only for 1 year, though. So we're going to see exactly how things roll with Kevin Shattenkirk, with his old team, which is also his new team. As far as what else is going on in hockey, well, let me correct myself. Kevin Shattenkirk actually signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning, not the Washington Capitals. Kevin Shattenkirk signed with Tampa. And one other problem with the Rangers is the fact that one of their guys is already holding out right now. So they're hoping that they could come to an agreement. Tony DeAngelo and also Brendan Lemieux have not signed their contracts with the Rangers yet. So there could be a strong possibility that both guys wind up holding out during the preseason. And for the record, they officially start training camp in the NHL next month. Now, as far as what's going on in basketball circles, they're holding out tryouts for Team USA to try and compete for the World Championships, which are going to be taking place in China. And no superstar has shown any desire to play for Team USA for the World Championships. Now, as far as who is trying out for the team, we see that Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Jaylen Brown, and Bam Adebayo are 4 of the guys who have been invited to compete for spots, I should say, for the World Championships. One other thing in basketball, Vince Carter, who seems to defy Father Time every single year, is going to play 1 more year, which means he's going to be back for, his 22nd year in the NBA. He's going to re-sign with the Hawks and come back for his 22nd NBA season. The guy has become such a sage in this game. And as far as who else is trying out for Team USA, I see that Kyle Kuzma of the Lakers is also trying out. And also is Kemba Walker, who just recently signed with the Celtics. Well, at least there's one person who's definitely going to be coming back to coach the squad, and that's their head coach, Greg Popovich, a guy who is now 73 years old, continues to be a curmudgeon to the media, yet is still professing his wisdom upon the younger players of the game, whether it's with the Spurs or with Team USA. So, speaking of the World Championships, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who just a couple of months ago was named the NBA's most valuable player, is going to lead Greece at the World Championships. As it turns out, Giannis Antetokounmpo did an interview recently. He said he would trade his MVP in exchange for a gold medal at the World Championships. You want to applaud the kid for showing patriotism for his country, but would he really want to trade his MVP award? That's a pretty prestigious award for any NBA player to have. Not only that, but there's still an NBA title that's eluding that young man, and he came so close this past spring before the Raptors wound up booting him out. But he's got a long shelf life in this game coming up, so don't be surprised if you see the kid win a title. Hey, don't be surprised if you see him add not just a World Championship gold medal, but an Olympic gold medal, because next year, the Summer Olympics are going to be held in Japan. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of squads are going to be going for the gold, both at Worlds and at the Olympics within the next year. All I can tell you right now is Team USA's got some really young players on their squad. I mean, check this out. We mentioned before the kids that they have trying out for Team USA right now. There's also Kemba Walker, who is the veteran of the group. He's had 8 years in the league. Also on the squad is Donovan Mitchell. So when you think about it, Team USA has got a nice mix of veteran players and youth that they can probably show off, and athleticism too. They've got some really, really good athleticism. Not sure what they could do as far as probably knocking down a mid-range jumper or a long-range jumper, but let me tell you, these kids, not sure how much longer that they can go, but I can tell you, Team USA is going to be really interesting to watch. And I mentioned Giannis Antetokounmpo before. I just saw his new photo that he took with the Greek squad. They look like they're having a lot of fun with themselves. You know, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a very, very interesting individual. He's the son of Nigerian immigrants. He was born and raised in Greece. He has another brother, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, who wound up being invited to play for the Bucks and in turn be Giannis's teammate. So when you think about it, that's a really dangerous duo that they're going to be having right there. They actually have another brother who, if I'm not mistaken, might have been picked up by the Celtics recently. I'm going to try and research that to see if that's true. If I'm not mistaken, there's a family of 3 or 4 brothers that are on that roster. But let me see exactly which one they wound up getting. Nope, not there. Well, I'm going to look around and see if I can try and find a Antetokounmpo here. Well, there's Giannis and there's Thanasis. Well, I do know that a third brother wound up getting signed by an NBA team. That's for sure. When they were growing up in Greece, they faced some of the worst racism that any kid or any set of brothers could ever face in a European country. In fact, one time the brothers made their way into a restaurant not too far from home, and they wound up being greeted and served by a guy who has been running that restaurant as a family business for many years. Other customers who were at that restaurant decided to get up and walk out of the restaurant, all because this restaurant manager decided to serve 2 young black kids. Since that day, the 2 brothers and the restaurant manager have become very good friends. But that wasn't the only issue of racism that they wound up facing. Unfortunately, they wound up having graffiti painted on the walls of their house not too far from Athens with a lot of racial slurs. Greece has had a long, long reputation for having, I would say, rather backwards thinking when it comes to outsiders, specifically black outsiders. And as it turns out, these kids were menaced again when they wound up being subjected to really, really ugly racist taunts on the playgrounds, whether it was playing soccer or playing basketball. In fact, there were a couple of times when white supremacist groups wound up painting really ugly anti-black slurs on the walls in the streets of Athens. But because he picked up a basketball, that's Giannis I'm speaking of, because he wound up picking up a basketball and starring first for the Greek national team and then for one of the Greek club squads, one of the Greek clubs there. He suddenly became a hero to a lot of white Greeks in that country. The day he was drafted by the Bucks, he became probably the biggest national hero to their country that any athlete has ever been. In fact, on the same basketball court where he first learned the game, he wound up having his likeness painted on the basketball court itself. Him in his Milwaukee number 34 jersey and everything. Think what would happen if this young man wound up winning a world championship gold medal and maybe a Greek, or better yet, an Olympic gold medal. This young man, who when he was a kid was pelted with racial slurs and faced the most disgusting forms of racism, is now being looked at as a hero. If he were to win a gold medal at the World Championships and or the Olympics, he would probably be an icon to his country forever. Now, let's see what that young man can do for his native country. As far as other happenings going on in the NBA, some pretty quiet stuff has been going on recently. We mentioned that Vince Carter is going to be returning to the Hawks. And also, Draymond Green wound up signing once again with the Warriors. He got himself a 4-year extension, and he got himself a pretty nice chunk of money, $100 million. And what about the recent interview that Carmelo Anthony did with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's First Take recently? The guy said that he felt like he was fired by the Rockets last year. Well, I wonder why. Not only has Carmelo Anthony become the epitome of the isolationist type of player, he won't pass the ball. He doesn't play that much defense. He's gotten significantly older. The only thing that he can rely on right now is maybe his jump shot. But the reason why he wound up getting traded from the Knicks to Thunder and from Thunder to the Rockets was because he could not get the ball over to his teammates when he was supposed to. More like he would not get the ball to his teammates when he was supposed to. And you also consider his age. He's now 35 years old. And he's wondering why he doesn't have a job right now. Another reason is because he still thinks he's a starting player when he's not. He has just proven to be very selfish, very self-absorbed, and all about getting his points. And these allegations go back to his 1 year at Syracuse. It just goes to show you that if you want to build a championship team, you cannot have poison pills like him just poisoning the locker room, for a lack of a better word. Now, as far as what else is going on, we haven't spoken about any wrestling for a long time. Unfortunately, a legendary competitor from way back in the day passed away, and that's Harley Race. Harley Race wound up being 8 times the NWA World Champion, and his claim to fame in WWE was when he was known as the King Harley Race after winning the King of the Ring tournament. So rest in peace goes to Harley Race, an outstanding champion and easily one of the toughest men you would ever go up against. So, folks, with that being said, I think I'm just going to bid you adieu. So, for everybody here, I'm Jamie. We hope to see you next time. This is the part where we fade out, but I'm going to have to fade myself out because, unfortunately, we don't have anybody to man the controls. So I'm just going to get on out of here, and I'm going to sign ourselves out. Good night, everyone.